Remember when college was the path, the non-negotiable step to success? What if the game has changed? What if the $120,000 in student loans from 1999 that I took out is now just a drop in the bucket of today's costs? This episode, we're asking the hard questions. Is university still worth the soaring cost? Can soft skills outshine a degree in the age of AI? And are we truly preparing our kids for a world that's nothing like ours was? Don't miss this crucial conversation. Is higher education really the right choice for you? When I was young, the goal of going to university and getting a degree was a non-negotiable and pretty much a standard in life. However, given how much the world has changed since 2004, lately I've been wondering, is going to university still the right choice? My parents were immigrants to the US and neither of them graduated from university. Naturally, their goal was for their kids to do what they could not do. And in the 80s and 90s, a degree was a requirement and a necessity in order to get professional white-collar jobs and generally succeed in life. All of this made a lot of sense and felt like the right thing to do. That said, not everyone who attended university felt that they had a reason to be there. I was lucky in that I wanted to go to university. I craved learning, and I saw university as a place where I could learn just about anything I wanted. I also had the goal of going into some sort of corporate business career and moving up the ranks. University was an absolute requirement in order to do that. So it was a win-win all around for me. University was a place where I could check off a required box and satisfy any and all of my educational curiosities. The cost to pursue this step in my life was ultimately $25,000 a year, and this was between roughly 1999 and 2004. Not bad given today's tuition, but not cheap either since I was an out-of-state student. Add in books and other expenses, and I was on the hook for about $120,000 in student loans. I figured I'd be paying student loans for probably about 20 years. Ultimately, I did pay everything off in 19 years. I made the most of my years at university. I took the max number of credits nearly every semester, and I took any and all classes that I was curious about, even if they weren't required for my degree, and I loved it. When I paid the last student loan bill, I looked back and honestly felt no regrets because I wanted what university had to offer me. A couple of years ago, the topic came up about university for my daughter, who was not even a year old at that time. And after some deep conversations about it, my wife and I concluded that we wouldn't require or mandate that our little girl go to university. We wouldn't speak about university as a natural next step after high school. Instead, we would consider it as one of many means to her potential goals and ambitions. So why not encourage my own child to do something that my parents worked so hard to unlock for me? Well, there are a few reasons for that. One, the cost has gone up significantly more than the value you get. Essentially, the only thing about university that has improved significantly is the broadband speed. The academics are mostly the same, depending on the field that you're studying. And yet the price has more than doubled since the early 2000s. It's like buying an iPhone 3 today for the price of an iPhone 16 Pro. That makes no sense. And yet that is in some ways what we're being sold. Another reason, there are many more alternatives to launching a successful career now than there were before. I mean, just look around at tech companies and how they brag about their youngest employees who didn't even go to university. Or look at companies that have dropped university degree requirements. Look at all the ways that people learn now. I mean, I'm thinking about YouTube University, online courses, reading books on your own, boot camps. When I started university in 1999, there weren't really any other options for learning the things I needed to learn in order to qualify for the jobs that I wanted. In the next 20 years, there will likely be many more validated alternatives to university. A third reason I found is that universities don't teach soft skills by design, and those will really matter in a world of AI. Universities, for all their academic content and resources, don't teach soft skills. They don't teach you to lead, to speak, to coach, to manage, to teach, to connect with others, at least not by design. They have opportunities for you to practice some of these skills if you choose to, but these are not by design. If you want to learn Calculus 3, you can learn that by taking a formal course focused exactly on that topic, and they might even have someone with world-class skills teaching you that class and that topic. But if you want to learn how to network, how to speak, how to build relationships, they might offer a short seminar, maybe a few opportunities to join student organizations or dedicated workshops taught by their own staff members who are likely not experts on that particular topic. I've seen this firsthand from the inside while working at universities. And in the world of AI, where entry level roles and relevant hard skills could be done better by software or AI agents, soft skills are the only ones that are really left to set us apart. Another reason, after a few years, your results actually speak more for you and your career than your university degree or the university brand name that you attended. So if you can get the results another way, why not cut out the middleman? I mean, don't get me wrong. There will always be people who get super excited over hearing some of the big university brand names. But, I think we're talking about a minority of situations where that will actually pay off. Another reason, universities aren't the quickest moving institutions, and they may not have the latest and greatest resources for your chosen field. Obviously, I can't speak for every field. But for instance, if you're pursuing a field that is fast moving, radically shifting, maybe it's highly innovative, universities may not actually be the best path because they might move too slowly and your learnings might be obsolete by the time you graduate. One great example is digital marketing. Digital marketing is a field that leverages a lot of fast moving technology and is relatively new. Rarely can universities keep up with what's actually happening in the real world when it comes to digital marketing. If you're passionate about this field and feel inspired to learn and get to work sooner rather than later, a university is probably not the best way to go. Put another way, if blog articles written a few months ago can become obsolete, just imagine what that means for a multi-year marketing degree curriculum that probably took a couple of years to put together. Unless you can find a university with a marketing program that is committed to teaching the latest and bleeding edge developments, you might be better off learning in the field from current professionals. And lastly, you're ready to start your career now, and you don't want to wait 4 years. There was a time when people launched their families and or careers much sooner in life. If you can add value to a field or an organization, then your age doesn't matter much. If you're a great writer at 18 and want to begin contributing to the field, no sense in waiting 4 years. That said, if attending university is still important to you or maybe your parents, you can still begin contributing to the field as a writer outside of your schoolwork. Your schoolwork should not limit your ability to create value. It should augment it. When I went back to school to pursue a master's in psychology, I didn't wait until graduation to start practicing executive coaching. I started as early as just a few months into my 2 years master's degree program. By the time I graduated, I had already put the skills I learned to practice on dozens of clients. I was ready, and the master's program was meant to augment and accelerate my ability to get to market. Unfortunately, most people wait until graduation to begin testing and practicing their new skills. I believe that's too late if you want to be competitive and get to work doing something you love sooner rather than later. University isn't an excuse to wait. You can make it an opportunity to start sooner. So the question, is going to university really right for you? Well, I broke it down into a few ways for you to consider this. So if one or more of the following conditions are met, then I think you should totally go forward and consider this further. First, you're ready to put in the effort. Like with most things, when it comes to higher education, you get what you put into it. Being the leader of your educational journey at a university means proactively seeking out resources and learning opportunities. It also means taking every opportunity to meet with professors, get involved in student organizations, take on student leadership opportunities, seek out and apply for internships, and form strong relationships with the multitude and variety of visitors and special guests that are drawn to campus. If you are prepared to do all this and more, then university might be right for you. Second, whatever you need to learn is best delivered and taught by university. So for instance, if you want to be a research scientist of some kind, then universities can give you access to facilities, guidance, and equipment that you might not otherwise be able to access so easily. Some universities specialize in a career, and those might be good reasons to attend them for that particular career. For example, my alma mater, Penn State University, has invested a significant amount in becoming a farm for Wall Street talent. If you want to go to Wall Street and work on Wall Street, then going to Penn State is an effective path and likely worth the significant investment. Another reason, or another factor for you to consider, your chosen profession is governed by an outside body that requires university degrees. For example, medicine, accounting, law, and psychology. See, there are some fields that give you no choice. Notice, I didn't include engineering and education. The reason is that I believe that those can be learned outside of a formal university if you're truly committed to learn these professions. It doesn't make it any easier. I'm just saying it is possible. If you can prove your talent, most employers would have a hard time ignoring you and no legal reason to require a degree. Unlike medicine, accounting, law, and psychology, where those are governed by some sort of body, maybe the American Medical Association, the American Psychological Association, the bar, or in accounting, whoever it is that issues CPAs. Now, when it comes to education, I do not include public education because there too you need official paperwork to teach. You can, however, teach in private schools, universities, and non-academic settings without a degree in the topic or a degree at all in some cases. Another factor to consider, the ROI after considering all costs, including the opportunity cost of time, makes sense for you. For me, what I think about when I think about ROI is it means being able to recover my university costs in 4 to 5 years. That means that after your living expenses are paid, and this is once you graduate, and maybe there's some fund spending and the taxes you pay each year, what is left over should be every year, should be 1 year's worth of your average university annual cost. If your career cannot recover your university costs in 4 to 5 years, then I would reconsider the university option or find another way to fund it so that you don't have to recover all of that money. We're now seeing the extremely negative impacts of the student loan industry and how many Americans are trapped for decades paying mostly interest on their loans. And I've been there for many years. You can easily end up paying 2 to 4 times your actual university costs when you factor in interest. And best way to avoid this trap is to make sure you can pay off your student loans quickly enough so that by your late 20s, you're completely free of student loans and able to make decisions free of financial constraints. See, there are many ways to fix your ROI to meet this requirement. For example, you can plan to go back home to live with your parents if that is available to you and reduce your living expenses significantly for the first 4 to 5 years. That might allow your remaining income to be able to cover a year's worth or an average year's worth of university. This strategy might make the difference between getting to ROI in 4 to 5 years versus 8 to 10. You can secure college scholarships to lower your average annual cost. You can select a school in your state so that you qualify for in-state tuition, which is generally lower. Bottom line, do whatever it takes to get to break even by no later than 4 to 5 years after graduation. If you can make that work, then university might be right for you. And if you need data or insight on how much certain careers are paying, you can find that out on the internet. So how will my wife and I handle our kids' education? Well, our plan, as of now, she's just 2 years old, we plan to save money for university. We estimate that we'll need at least $500,000 saved per child, assuming that university prices double again in the next 20 years. So that's $400,000 in tuition, plus let's say $100,000 for other related costs. By the way, I say that and I probably sound pretty calm, but that is a pretty crazy amount to think that I'm going to need to save, or that we're going to need to save in order to fund education, higher ed, should our daughters decide that that's where they want to go. But with the way tuition is going up, I estimate that it's possible that in the next 20 years, it could double again from today's numbers. And if today it's in the 50,000 range, that means that in 20 years, it could be 100,000 per year. 4 years, that's 400,000 plus 100,000 in other university or school related costs. That said, we plan to ask our daughters what they want to do after high school. And of course, we will be coaching them way before that on helping them figure out their own goals. If they have a goal that absolutely requires university, then great. We'll have some of that money saved up for them to help them do that. If one of them says that she has a business idea she'd like to test, then we'll take that money saved, divide it, and fund up to 10 venture attempts. I teach entrepreneurship, and I know that if provided with coaching, funding, and support, someone will likely figure it out in 10 tries or less. If she needs a break to learn more about herself, then we'll consider funding a 1-year discovery year and then helping her figure out a plan to self-fund any subsequent years for discovery, if necessary. If she wants to pursue a career that requires training, we'll help her consider all of her options, because by then there will be many more ways to prepare yourself for most careers. There are many alternatives to going to a 4-year university, and we will help them explore those. So what's the moral of the story? Simply put, going to university should not be the end. It is a means to an end. And if you don't know the end, and what I mean by that are your goals, your career ambitions, whatever it might be, then it's really hard to know what is the best way to get there. And if you don't know your goals, then start considering all of the different ways that you can start figuring out goals. What are the possible alternatives and consequences and opportunities before choosing one? See, for several decades, we've been simply picking the university option without question, and that has not worked out for many people. Don't let anyone tell you what your goal should be. That decision is yours to make. Not too long ago, people told kids to learn how to code. That advice did not age very well, and 10 years later, entry-level coding can be done by AI. No more need for entry-level coders. See, kids who followed that advice in middle school about 10 years ago are now paying the price for misguided predictions and speculation about the future. Don't get me wrong. Schools, institutions, teachers meant well when they gave that advice. The problem is things are changing too fast to speculate 10 years down the road. Decide on your own goals. It's your life after all. And then figure out how to get there. Don't forget, university is one of many means. It is not the end. Thank you for listening to this episode of the School of Reinvention podcast.